And you're probably wondering, wait, I have a PhD, why would I start teaching high school? Well, there's some really good reasons why you should consider high school teaching. And so we're going to kind of talk about a little bit about those, what my past is, how I got here. I don't have a PhD. I have a master's in chemistry, not a PhD. Basically, when I tried to think about what I wanted to say to you all, I bet every person in this room has science teachers that influenced the decision they made to become a science teacher or become a scientist. I tried to think of who I could remember of my teachers growing up. I remember the name of every single science teacher I had ever had. I did not remember my language arts teachers. I did not remember my math. I did remember my math teachers because I really liked math too. And I struggled as to whether I wanted to teach chemistry or math when I started teaching. But I remembered those people. They made an impact on my life. So, I mean, every person in this room, if you notice, my theme is igniting a spark or getting you to think about what you want to do with your life. Okay? What do you want to do with your life and who do you want to influence in your life? And these people ignited a spark in me. My science teachers did. I said life experiences and random events. My parents gave me a chemistry set. Who had a chemistry set when they were growing up? I bet you most, well, a few of you. They're not as good as they were when I was growing up. I've been teaching 26 years. I was like, I could have been her chemistry teacher. So let's just put it at both of theirs, actually. But my chemistry set had hydrochloric acid in it and all kinds of fun things that you can't get in a chemistry set anymore. But if you know some chemistry, you can still find those things. So anyway, you know, those were things that influenced my desire to study chemistry. I liked science. I was good at science. All my science teachers weren't good. You know, they're not all good. Nor were all of my, say, you know, language arts teachers not good. But I mean, those teachers influenced my decision to become a chemistry teacher later in life. Probably the biggest thing, I majored in biochemistry at Texas A&M and went to work at MD Anderson. And I was in this little bitty room with these little bitty breast cancer cells that I grew on these little bitty sterile plates. And they did not talk to me. And it was really boring. And so I actually was in a service lab. So, I mean, there were other people in the lab that worked with me. But I realized very quickly into that experience that that was not what I was going to be called to do. I ended up moving to, I said the big city. Okay, she lived in Midland, Michigan. I lived in Midland, Texas. So I left MD Anderson and moved to Midland, Texas. And there was no cancer research to do in Midland, Texas at the time. This was oil boom time. This was in the 80s, and oil was still booming. But there wasn't much to do with cancer research in Midland. So I had denied my whole life I wanted to teach. My mother was a teacher, and for those of you whose parents are teachers, teachers beget teachers. There's something in your blood. You will deny it. I had denied it. Nope, not going to teach, not going to teach. Didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I was not going to teach. Well, I ended up in Midland with what am I going to do with my life now? And I decided, okay, I'll try that teaching certificate. I got certified to teach. And I was hooked. I mean, I loved it from the day I walked into the classroom. I was like 3 years older than my students. They were 18, I was 22. And it was, you know, that would be 4 years. Okay, math, I shouldn't have taught math. We're probably right there. Anyway, I was hooked from the moment I walked in the room. And I taught in Midland for 3 years, and then I moved to Houston. My husband came to Rice to go to graduate school, so we moved to Houston, and I taught in the inner city schools of HISD. And I was there for 3 years, and it was a very different experience. All different public schools, you know, are different. And then I moved to St. John's, and I've been there now for 21 years, and it's a long time. Some of you might know students from St. John's. There's a lot of them here at Rice. There's a lot of undergraduates. We send about 10% of our student body here from St. John's, which is pretty good. It's a pretty high caliber school. I teach AP chemistry to my 10th graders. They take AP in 1 year. And I teach organic chemistry to my seniors. So they get a lot of chemistry, and I'm very fortunate. I'm spoiled rotten. I could never go back to public school again. But it is an amazing thing to be able to provide that spark. You all know that, you know, in the graduate cycles, whatever, you know, when you're a graduate student, the PhD that you work with, he calls you his grandson or whatever, granddaughter, whatever, you know, your daughter, you're going to be, well, I share One of my children is graduating with a degree in chemistry, and yeah, she worked with a Nobel laureate. So yeah, we're both parents for this child. You know, I started her on her path, he pushed her on her path, and she's graduating from MIT this year, and she's pursuing her PhD in chemistry. Most of my students probably don't get PhDs in chemistry. We have a lot of pre-med type people, but a lot of them do. I have several kids that I taught that now have PhDs in chemistry, which is a pretty phenomenal thing for me to think about what they're able to do. Anyway, so my combustion analysis, do you remember combustion analysis problems? Didn't you hate them? Okay, this many grams of this is burned, and you get this many grams of this, and what was the formula of what you started with? Okay, so what pushed me on my way? Master teachers, university, I had some phenomenal people that I got to work with over the course of my time becoming a teacher. I didn't start out a very good teacher. I would say if you asked my students from Midland High School how good of a chemistry teacher I was, they probably would say not very. But I think I've gotten a little bit better. I've learned a ton of chemistry along the way. I did go back and get my master's at U of H while I was teaching, and I made some wonderful contacts there. Mamie Moy at University of Houston is a phenomenal chemist, and I was able to work with her, and she really inspired me to get involved in ACS. So I've done a ton of things in ACS, which has been a wonderful resource. I mean, I'll talk more about that in just one second, and I promised I wasn't going to go long, so it's hard to not talk up here. Colleagues also help push you on your way. The teachers that I work with are phenomenal. They share a passion. I mean, every one of us is there because we are interested in seeing our students be successful and learn what is passionate to us. You know, I love chemistry, and I want my kids to love chemistry. That's one of the things I want them to walk away from my room in. They don't all love chemistry, that's for sure. The other thing that kind of drives me is that students, every single day is different. I never have the same day that I had yesterday. You know, I'm teaching something different every day. My students, how they respond to what I teach each day is not the same. And so every single day is different. It's all fresh, it's all new. How I teach one year is not going to be exactly the way I do it the next year. So it's very much a changing field. I mean, every single year is different. So that keeps me going. Here's the daily life. I mean, you remember your high school teachers. You teach 5 to 7 periods a day. It kind of depends on where you teach. If you teach at a private school, you may have less. We have fewer classes at St. John's because we're supposed to be available for tutorials and things like that. When I taught in public school, I taught 7 out of 8 periods a day. You have administrative duties. Yeah, that's not the fun part. You get to do lunch duty. That's not fun. But I mean, you do it maybe a week or something like that, or carpool duty or something like that. Grading papers. Actually, one of my former students is back there, and she'll tell you I was really bad at this, that I hate to grade papers. It's just, I would much rather just let y'all learn than actually have to grade what you've learned. But I did eventually get them done. So, but that's what you do, kind of on a daily basis, are those things. Why would you want to do this? What could fuel your fire? Well, first of all, there's no grants to write. Yeah, you know, they're going to pay me, and I'm going to have new students every single year. I don't have to apply every year to get more money to do my research. My research are my kids every single day. I don't have to ask for money. I do have to ask for money if I want really cool equipment, which I do, but I don't have to ask for money other than that. As I said earlier, the research is human. I mean, I'm not going to discover a cure to cancer, but one of my kids might. One of the students I teach might discover a cure for some sort of cancer. And to me, I started them on that path or enabled them on that path. And so I might not have directly done it, but yet, you know, one of my students might. I continually look to the future. I mean, I have taught 26 years. I taught about 140 kids a day when I taught in public school, which is a lot. I only teach about 50 or 60 kids a day now. In private school, we have smaller classes and things like that. But think about 26 years times, and I told you I wasn't good at math, so 26 years times, just say an average, 100 kids. That's 2,600 kids. Is that right? Maybe not. Anyway, it's a lot of kids. All right. So what fuels my fire? I go to conferences. I love to network with other chemistry people. I'm very involved locally, statewide, and nationally in the chemistry teacher scene. We have our own little group that gets together here in Houston. We're actually meeting tomorrow. It's called the Metropolitan Houston Chemistry Teachers Association. Statewide, there's an associated group called the Associated Chemistry Teachers of Texas, and I've been really involved in those. Nationally, I've been to ACS meetings to get involved, as well as National Science Teacher meetings. I probably am more involved in the chemistry teacher part of it than just the science. ACS, I was a mentor for the United States Chemistry Olympiad team, and I got to go to Korea and Taiwan and take our team there. And so for 3 summers, I participated in that. Without a doubt, first of all, I'm not smart enough to teach those kids. They knew more chemistry than I did. The first year, I thought I knew more chemistry than they, but I realized very quickly, no, let me just show you some stuff and then you can learn it. They were amazing. They were amazing kids. And getting to see those kids and what they were able to do was really incredible. The American Chemical Society has tons of resources and programs for chemistry teachers. A couple of them were mentioned already. They provide free materials for chemistry teachers. I mean, there's many, many things that they do. Scholarships. If any of you decided you wanted to be a chemistry teacher, guess what? ACS has a scholarship to send you on to get certified to teach in chemistry. So the other thing that fuels my fire is watching my kids pursue advanced chemistry. What if you wanted to be a teacher? Well, Rice has a great program. I actually used to teach in the program here. The Rice Education Department has a summer school program, and you can earn your Master of Arts in Teaching and get certified to teach in 1 year. I have had Rice PhD chemists who did that, who were here and they got certified to teach and earned their Masters of Arts in Teaching at the same time that they finished their PhD in chemistry. The one that I have that did that is a very successful person in California, the state system of California schools. It's done very, very well. If you didn't want to go back to school, but you wanted to go ahead and start teaching, there's alternative certification plans you can do. Most districts, if they hire you, they'll say, okay, we want you to start teaching chemistry, and they need chemistry teachers. I know you keep hearing that they're firing teachers. Well, many states like Texas are now requiring chemistry for high school graduation. And so consequently, they need more chemistry teachers. And they need people that learned chemistry, not were biology majors and maybe had one chemistry class. So they really need chemists to come in and teach classes. So they're, even though they're downsizing in a lot of schools, they do still need teachers. And alternative certification, you would probably take a few classes and observe some classes and things like that, and then be certified after a year. Private schools, St. John's doesn't require teacher certification. We have more PhDs that teach at St. John's than any school I've ever heard of, in all the subjects, not just in science. So a lot of private schools don't require certification. If it's something that you're interested in, check and see. Last but not least, there's me with my hands on fire, except for now I have the mouse right in the middle of my face. This is a demo. I do demos for kids, and so this is actually, I think Lucy was in the room when we did this. We brought all of our 8th graders over, and we let them all do this. I mean, it's called methane bubbles, or the methane mamba. I love to do demos with the little kids especially, to kind of get them excited about chemistry and about science. So my last slide, actually that was not my last slide. This is my last slide. So read it for a second. I don't want you to be depressed, because you might think it's kind of a depressing slide. You find out what your life's purpose was after you're done. Well, before you're burned out, why don't you light some other matches? Why don't you spark an interest in science in some other people? Why don't you be the person who inspired you to be a science teacher? So I appreciate your time, and that's it.